Hello, this is Dennis with A1 Telephone Service and Repair, A1 Electronics. You can reach us on the web at www.a1-telephone.com, and you can also reach us at 618-235-6959. Today I want to show you the initial checkout of a really cool Kellogg wooden wall crank telephone. And this is Phil's telephone from Ohio. And so basically what Phil wants is to be able to answer this telephone, and he wants to be able to talk on it, and he's not interested in dialing out or anything like that. He just wants to use it as an extension phone. He wants the bells to ring when you crank it with a magneto, and then he wants it to ring when a call comes in. So we have to create that circuit that when you crank the phone and ring the bells with a magneto, you're not backfeeding any voltage into the telephone line. So we're going to install that circuit, and then we need to, if you watch any of our videos, I'm going to build a transmitter for the transmitter here, and we're going to upgrade that so he's going to have the quality that he's going to need when he talks on the telephone. And then we're probably going to have to upgrade the receiver capsule that he has here. But this is just the initial checkout, so we'll go through all that and figure out what's going on. Now, I know the magneto is not, it's turning, but it's very resistant, and so basically the bells are not ringing at this point, and one bell is missing. He's got a note here, and I've talked to him, and we're going to try to come up with another bell for him, and if we can't match the bell that's on it real well, we might have to replace both of them so they look alike. But we'll get into that as we get further into the repair and conversion of this telephone. It's in very good condition for its age, basically, and the magneto, somebody has replaced the shelf. But what they did was they drove screws in the side, and the screws don't really center up with the shelf very well, and in shipping they kind of broke free a little bit. So we want to stabilize this shelf and get that squared away. And also in the back of these magnetos, a lot of them have some bracket area where you can mount them to the back of the telephone, and that's the way it should have been. It should have had some screws on the backboard of this telephone, and that way it wouldn't move around much. So we've got to get that squared away. It's not a big deal. It's just a little deal that we have to get straightened out. So we're also going to install a modular port in this telephone so that he can walk up to this telephone and plug in any line cord, any length, any color. Makes it for a clean, easy, simple connection. And we're going to have to rewire the inside of the telephone. There's no wiring here, as you see, coming from the transmitter. It may not even have a transmitter, but it wouldn't matter. We'd have to upgrade it anyway. So we've got a lot of work to do to this telephone. We're going to get a start on it. We'll be right back. Okay, we're back now, and we are in the middle of the process of the initial checkout. And so we're kind of going through the magneto because the magneto has too much resistance in it and it's not working. So what we want to do here is I have my meter here, and I want to touch my two leads together because we're on continuity here. And if you heard that signal from the meter, that's a dead short. So we have continuity. And I want to measure this magneto, and I want to show you here. And what you're going to hear is that continuity beep. So we have too much resistance across the coils in this magneto, and I want to set the meter to the side now, and we'll turn that off. I want to show you something real quick. If I hold this magneto and I crank it, you see the resistance in it? See how much resistance that there is there? Very hard to turn. I can't hardly turn it with one hand. I have to hold it with my thumb or I'll knock the magneto over. So I want to hold the magneto. See how that's pulsing? So our magneto is bad. We're going to have to go through this magneto. I'm going to pull the coil out and everything, but there's some issues here, and I'm not sure it's repairable. If the coils are crossed over inside the magneto, and I'm going to show you what I'm talking about here real quick. We'll go ahead and take them apart, and I'll pull that part out. We've already had it apart once, but I wanted to show you what was going on. Our coils inside here, if they're shorted, this is bad now. And so it might be simpler to just replace the magneto itself. And we'll go ahead and do another measurement on that. We want to check for continuity, and you'll hear the meter beep. And then I want to check the... So there's it's too much of a short. We're showing about 57, 55 ohms across the coils, and that's too much of a short. So we know the windings somewhere here have shorted out on each other, and that's not a good thing. So we're going to have to go further into that magneto and see what we can do for it. Now I want to show you how simple another magneto that does work will turn. See how easy that is? It's not giving me any resistance whatsoever. So it's pulsing properly. So this magneto has got a serious problem here. Now the other issue was someone had made a shelf for the magneto, and this piece of wood is just too brittle. You know, it's a hardwood, but the problem is hardwoods can be brittle, so they just crack. And if you see the screws that they used, they're just too big. And when you take a thickness of this board here, and then you get the screws off the center, this is what happens. It just breaks away and chips out. So that's going to have to be replaced. That's an issue also. We'll set that to the side. The other issue is this magneto has a bracket in the back, and it should have been attached to the backboard of the telephone, and that keeps that magneto in shipping or in home use or whatever, you know, moving it around. That keeps that magneto from bouncing around and shaking because it's attached and secured to the back board of the telephone. So the magneto was really installed improperly, but that's not what caused the short. That's an internal situation, and it'll be in here. Now, I'm going to go ahead and go in and try to repair this, but it may not be repairable. I mean, you're talking about a lot of windings. I'm going to open it up a little bit, and I'm going to see what we got going on, but the magneto might be just bad in this unit, and there wouldn't be anything we could do about it past that. You'd have to have the exact part and then you're ruining a good magneto. So the only way to get this part is to have the exact same magneto, but maybe no magnets, or the gears all tore up. So we might have to replace the magneto altogether. But we'll take a short break and we'll get some more video as we move along. So we'll be right back. Okay, we're back now, and so basically what we've done is taken the shaft apart here, and we're getting into the coils, and I have the caps off, and I found some things that I didn't like about it, but I know that at some point, Phil picked this telephone up off the internet, and I can tell by the two screws on each cap that the ends have been boogered up, and so I know somebody knew at some point that this magneto did not work properly because they took it apart. That would have never passed the factory. I've taken a lot of magnetos apart, and I never see the screws boogered up unless somebody's gotten into it. So that's an issue. Somebody has been into this magneto because they knew it did not work properly. And so now we're going through the coil, and I want to make sure that everything's proper on it. And I can't unwind all the windings really, because you'd basically tear everything up because the windings are dried out. So you wouldn't want to do that. But and they can be rewound, but it's probably simpler to find another magneto. And so anyway, basically what we want to do, since I found some stuff that I don't like on it, is I'm going to try to repair that, and then we're going to put it together, and we're going to test it and see if it's working. And so we'll go from there. So I'll take a short break, and I'll be right back. Okay, we're back now, and we are in the middle of the process of repairing this wooden wall telephone. And if you remember earlier in the video, the one bell was missing on this telephone. So we have found a replacement bell for the outside. So it's the cosmetic side of the bell. And so that's been replaced now and matched up with the other one. So now what we have is the magneto. Like earlier in the video, we showed that the magneto was shorted out at the coil. And so basically what you have here is the shaft, and it has the coil on it, and that is totally shorted. And so we found a replacement for Phil's magneto. And so now we're going to move this to the side, and we're going to do a little test. We have a bell here, and we're going to go ahead and crank the unit. So now we know that the magneto is good and the shaft and coil has been replaced. We can reinstall the magneto into this telephone, and then we can start working on finishing up the bell circuit. We also have to create a circuit so that when you get a call and a call comes in and your bells ring, and your magneto, when you walk up to your magneto and crank it and ring the bells, that you're not backfeeding any voltage into the telephone line. We also need to go through the receiver, and we're probably going to upgrade the receiver and transmitter so Phil will have the quality transmit and receive that he's going to need to talk on this telephone every day and hold a normal conversation. So we have a lot of work to do, but we're working towards finishing up this telephone, and we're going to take a short break and reinstall the magneto and get some things squared away, and we'll get some more video of this as we move along in the repair process. So we'll be right back. Okay, we're back now, and we are finished up with a repair and conversion of this telephone, and we're going to run through a little bit about what went on. Now, earlier in the video, we showed that we had to get a bell because it was missing one bell. And so now we have got a bell installed, and that's been taken care of. The receiver is original to the telephone, and basically we wanted to save whatever we could that was original to the telephone, and the receiver capsule inside the receiver is original to the telephone. The voice transmitter was not even in the telephone, so it had no transmitter, and we make a transmitter here that's an electronic transmitter if you watch our videos, and we installed an electronic transmitter, so that has been taken care of. We had to go and through the telephone and repair the magneto. The magneto had the coil on the shaft of the magneto had to be replaced, and we were lucky enough to find the part that we needed, and that has been repaired. So now our magneto has been gone through, and that's been taken care of. We had to rewire some of the telephone the way we needed it wired so that it would work the way we wanted it to work. We also had to go through the solenoid on the bells and adjust that and put that back into working condition. And so we also installed a modular port so that you can simply bring a line cord in and go ahead and plug right up to the modular port adapter, and it's plug and play. It makes for a simple, clean connection. We also had to create a circuit that when you crank the magneto and ring the bells, that breaks the circuit away from back-feeding voltage into the telephone line. So when you crank the magneto and ring the bells, there's no back voltage fed back into the telephone line. But yet when you get a call and a call comes in, your bells will ring. So we're going to go ahead and do some tests on this telephone now in the final checkout. And I want to go ahead and ring the bells with the analyzer. And this would be like you're getting a call. We're going to let that go a few times. I'll let it go one more time. Give you some dial tone. Now what I want to do is I want to crank the magneto and ring the bells. When I pick up the receiver, you can see the analyzer sees the line, but what I want to do is I want to tap the hook switch, and then I want to tap, you'll watch this red light. Anytime I'm transmitting, every time you see that red light, that's an indication of 100% modulation on transmit, and it's almost acting like a speakerphone at this point. It's picking up my transmission, my modulation, or I can tap on it, and that's how sensitive the electronic transmitter is. I can be back away from the telephone, and it's going to pick up anything that I'm saying, my modulation. So we know that it has transmit. Now what we can do is I have a switch box, and if I push the switch box, it gives us a line out, and we can call a time and temp number, and I will use a tone dialer at the transmitter, and at the tone dialer that we put up to the transmit and call our number, if it gives us our number, then we know that the transmitter is sensitive enough to pick that up and send the tones through the phone company, and then it'll give us our line out and give us our number. So they're having problems with their equipment on this time and temp number. You're going to hear the recording start, and then you'll hear a hum, and then the recording will finish. But that's their equipment. They're having a problem with it, and it has nothing to do with what we're doing on this end. So we'll go ahead and give you some dial tone.
Good afternoon. Today is Sunday, September 15th. The time is 3:03. Current temperature 90 degrees. Mostly cloudy tonight, 40% chance of a shower and a thunderstorm, a low in the low 60s. Monday, mostly cloudy, 20% chance of a shower, a high in the mid-70s.
Okay, now that we know that this telephone has been repaired and converted, we can return it to Phil and he can start enjoying this telephone. It's a really cool Kellogg wooden wall and it's going to look great wherever it's installed, I'm sure. This is Dennis with A1 Telephone Service and Repair, A1 Electronics. You can reach us on the web at www.a1-telephone.com, and you can also reach us at 618-235-6959. Thank you for watching and have a great day.